Hello viewers, Super GT here once again. So I'm going to be doing another video on one of the cars in the recent Dell Car pack. And this is it, the Aston Martin GT3. You see the livery there by the FLG, the Forza livery guy, with yet another amazing piece of artwork, this time based on the Forza Racing Championship. So I'm driving the new Aston Martin GT3 car. It's always good to see a new GT car in the game. And once again, in the Endurance GT hopper, this hopper tends to bring out the best racing, and therefore I do make a lot of videos on it. Around the outside of the pole sitter, and then keeping my momentum to give me the inside line now down the hill. And I go a little bit deep. You can see there that the other Aston Martin is going to try to get that cut back. Then as we come up to the next corner, I'm just going to get the run and assume the lead. So, going from third to first on the first lap. It's a shame it's not the full configuration, because I just think that's a better circuit overall for these cars, and it's nice to just do a longer track with less laps, I think. But across the line at the end of the first lap, it's been a very good start so far. Not only because I got from third to first, but also because I didn't get pulverised in a pile-up, so a little bit deep into Druids. And it's going to be a bit of deja vu here as we go back down the hill. I'm not going to make the same mistake though. Brake a little bit earlier, park it on the apex, and prevent him from getting that cutback as he did last time around. So then through the left and then into the very difficult final corner here at Brands Hatch, Indy. Now that's pretty much all of the drama in that race. So we're going to move to the end, lap 27, and it turned out to be a fairly comfortable victory. Now the Aston Martin I'm using here, it is a good car for the class, and the tune I'm using is by the ever trustworthy F4H ForceOne. So then on to Prague. Now we have a Chevrolet on pole position, but the Audi is going to get the whole shot. So the Audi there is also added into the game in the recent Dell Car pack, but we're going to see we can go one better in the Aston Martin. So around the outside of FTR Steve, who I felt went in a little bit early into the apex, had to slow down to pivot a little bit through there. And then I'm going to go in too early to this apex and literally hit it. So they do say hit the apex, but they don't mean like that. I was a little bit too close. And they go down into 5th place. So that, yeah, I've thrown away a good couple of seconds there and 3 positions. But of course it is the endurance hopper. We do have plenty of time to try and do something about it. So you may have seen a previous video called the F4H effect. You would have seen F4H Dino in that video, and he is just there ahead of us once again. So we're going to see if this can develop into a similarly good race at Prague here. So Prague is a strange circuit, I think, for these kind of GT cars, but you know what? I think this configuration, it flows quite well, and I've always enjoyed the Prague short circuit. And this chicane here, it is very tricky in this car, as you really do have to nail it exactly right if you want to get the maximum lap time. And once again, I've just crashed into the apex, so just turning in a little bit too early. But this is, as I said, I mean, it's the endurance hopper. You have lots of time to try and sort out your problems. And if you're not, you know, making less mistakes and getting faster lap times at the end of the race, then I think you've done something wrong. You really ought to be kind of analysing what you're doing wrong and improving towards the end of the race. So a little bit further on, this is lap number 4 now. So Dino has managed to get past this guy in the BMW Z4 and slightly gets away, so now it's my turn to try and do the same. So I'm going to try to avoid hitting the apex, get quite close, but just about avoid it. Onto the bridge. Going to tuck into that slipstream as much as we can. The car seems okay down the straights. The Z4 isn't typically a good car on the straight lines. But I do go around, so I go up the inside into the long right and then up towards the final chicane through the tunnel, the Love Tunnel, which we've seen many accidents within, although I must say it's a lot worse on the other configuration where you're going the other way round, as that is closer to the start of the lap. So over the line to begin the 5th lap. You go flying in here, go quite deep on the brakes, and then you come back for a very late apex, and I think that's the best line through that corner. Then let's see how we take the chicane this time around. A little bit tentative, but I think you need to be on the whole. I mean, of course you can just go for absolute lap time, but you risk making the mistakes. So we're going to start catching up here. I think FGL Steve was in the lead, but now F4H Dino has taken over the mantle. So I think Steve must have made a mistake going onto the bridge, and now he sits in 2nd place, just ahead of us. And it's good when you get these kind of races, because I just know that it's going to be a slow burner, and it's good just to try and put in maybe 5-6 laps in a row just to catch up a 1 second gap. These are the kind of races that really test your skills, and not so much a 2-lapper around, you know, a short circuit where it's all over in 3 minutes. This kind of race here really does test your patience and your ability to lap consistently, which is a really good skill in the game. And I just grazed the wall there. I don't think that slowed me down too much, thankfully. And onto the bridge, getting that chicane a little bit better now. Beginning of lap 7, very deep. As I say, you can cut back for that later apex, and it does help slightly because this car, I found it was very aggressive on throttle, so it did want to spin out. So just taking that straighter line on the exit does help with minimising the wheel spin coming out. So FGL Steve now well within reach. F4H Dino still a couple of seconds ahead, and so this battle here is going to start brewing up. Now you don't really, at this point here, you don't really want to start losing too much time. So I'm just hoping he doesn't start going defensive, because that's just going to lose us both time to Dino. And if we perhaps work together to go about catching him up, then we could do that. In fact, he goes into the pit lane, which is interesting, quite early, at the end of lap 7. So now this is obviously a very vital lap, or a vital next couple of laps, depends when I pit really. So if I can get a clean couple of laps here, then take my pit stop, then I should be able to get back out ahead, and that would be pretty much a free position. Typically, if you're going to overtake someone on the track, you're going to be losing time, because you're going to have to go off the racing line to go past them. It's sub-optimal, if you want to put it that way. If you do it this way in the pits, then you can do it without losing any time at all. So then winding round the long right, coming up to the final chicane through the tunnel, there is a back marker. How is he going to feature into things? Not too much at the moment. So you're kind of hoping that a back marker will slow down the person in front. It doesn't always happen to be that way. Sometimes they're going to slow you down. It depends on luck, really, which corner you meet them on. So I decided to go into pit lane at the end of that lap, and I'm just trying to see where Steve is, and he goes around the outside. So you see there, we pretty much lapped exactly the same on his out lap and my in lap, and the gap is pretty much as it was just before the pit stops. So it's quite an awkward pit stop exit, because you're coming out pretty much right on the racing line. So it's a recipe for carnage. I think luckily he knew that I was just coming out. I think the game does tell you as well. It tells you when you're coming out at least. I'm not sure it tells anyone else that someone is coming out of the pitch. You just kind of have to pay attention and just make sure that they don't turn across you. So then the end of lap number 9, I'm going to try to reel him in once again, and of course Dino still hasn't taken his pit stop. So this, I mean, any laps we do now are crucial, because if we can start lapping very well here and Dino has perhaps a couple of mistakes, then you never know what might happen. In fact, that's the main reason I pitted, was that Dino was surrounded by back markers, so I thought perhaps if I go in now, then he might be slowed down by them and I won't be slowed down. There is a bit of luck in that though. So Steve making a mistake, didn't feel it right to go up the inside. It is a very difficult place to go for a move. But into this one, the gap does open up. I look up the inside, put a nose on his right hand side, and we go through there without any contact, which was really good driving. So he left me the space, and I didn't really force the issue too much. But I am right on him, and we haven't really lost too much time in all of that. So really good driving from the pair of us. Now, touch that slipstream though, I do feel as though I have slightly better top end. You see I'm just very slowly creeping past. He leaves the space. So then I'm going to go right in and take that invitation. He's going to get a better line on the way out. But I'm pretty sure he backed off the throttle there because he could have had a run. But he just knows. It's clever driving really, because going into that chicane side by side, it just isn't worth doing. It's very risky. And I mean, even if he did get the position back, we're both going to lose loads of time as a result. So perhaps just tucking in behind, we'll both try and set some good laps and then see if we can get past Dino. So this lap has not been too bad so far into the last chicane. So just grazing the inside, and then that curb there on the left is very big and nasty. You can take it, it doesn't kill your car, but I wouldn't recommend it too much. So crossing the line to begin the 15th lap, and turns out that Dino's actually really got his head screwed on today, because he's in fact opened up the gap and he's got a back marker between us. So yeah, Dino doing a good job there to even open up the gap, and perhaps the little bit of battling between myself and FTR Steve slow this down slightly, hopefully not too much. But at the end of the race, that gap did open up slightly. I think a couple of laps I just put in, and maybe Steve made a couple of mistakes. So finishing second, Dino with a solid victory, half a second a lap quicker in the same tune and same car, which is quite worrying. But we then moved to Le Mans, the Bugatti version. So quite some big names in here. Dino, and then TX3 Mellish. You notice AMS Roadrunner in there as well. So the Season 3 of the Forza Racing Championship, the winner of that. So a big name, of course, in the game. So we're going to see how we can fare around Le Mans. So in fact, AMS Roadrunner won the championship in Le Mans. That was in June last year. So then, Dino on pole, FTL Steve there up in second place, and now I'll find myself in third, up behind the Bentley. So it's good to see plenty of British cars on offer today. Up the inside, a tiny bit of contact. Perhaps not the best move I've ever done. I'm up the inside anyway, and we're going to try to hunt down Dino once again. So he's going to, of course, just get the hammer down straight away, just really open up that gap instantly. I think the best way to do it is on lap 1. You can really make the most of people's battling, because obviously people are very close on lap 1. They're going to battle a lot, and you can really make the most of all of that by just getting focused and putting in a good lap straight away. But it turns out that Dino made a very late braking manoeuvre into that hairpin. So I'm going to go into the lead. Now this can sometimes be a worrying time, because I'm not always sure exactly where I'm braking, so I'm still trying to figure it out as I'm racing. So it's not always easy to be in the lead whilst trying to work all of this out. Sometimes it's easy to follow someone. You can kind of copy where they're braking, or just adjust it slightly. So into the final corner, just dipping 2 wheels beyond the white line and then onto the main straight. A little bit of a slide, that's what I said earlier. The car does like to slide if you get on that throttle a little bit too early. And then coming down the main straight then, Roadrunner, I'm noticing, has jumped up into 4th place. And this race is going to go on for a fair while, through Dunlop Curve and then into the Dunlop chicane. Way too deep, way too late on the brakes. I'm just going to kind of park on the apex. Dino can't really go anywhere because I've just parked it right there, exactly where he wants to go. And that pack, as we briefly look behind, is getting extremely close, and I go way too deep into that one. That's going to let him through, so you could call it team orders, where I'm basically Rubens Barrichello now, and I can just start blocking the crap out of everyone else to let my teammate get away. We'll see how this one develops. So now, Roadrunner's still in 4th place, although I'd imagine he's going to start putting pressure onto 3rd and want a way by. And I just made contact with the back of Dino. Didn't seem to affect him too much. Dino is cool as ever, a very fast and cool customer in Forza Motorsport, and he's going to start pulling away now out of this chicane, sorry, out of the hairpin into the chicane. And you can see the mist here lowering itself onto the circuit. I'm not sure if it's going to actually rain. The logo on the vote system did show rain, so we have to see. But then there are many different types of rain in the game, which they've programmed in, and it doesn't always rain. Sometimes this mist kind of just sits there for half the race, then just disappears, so there isn't actually any rain at all. So we have to see exactly how it pans out. So of course that will change things massively if it does start to rain. Not very tidy on the exit of the final corner onto the main straight. Dino's going to start pulling away. We do have a different challenge coming in now in the form of TX3 Mellish in the Jaguar. So once again another British car on offer. It seems like the British cars are very solid in the Forza GT division, but I do think it is cars like the Maserati and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo which are also very good. I think perhaps the Jaguar is better than the Aston Martin I'm driving here, but that's not to say the Aston Martin is a bad car. It's a very solid car indeed. I did see many people using it in this hopper. So into the next corner, turn 5. So Le Mans here has lots of, or at least this section does, has lots of very tight hairpins with long braking zones, as you can see here. Braking at the start of the curb, it's a very easy braking point, that one, to get right. And it's pretty much universal in any car. You can pretty much brake at the start of that curve and it'll pretty much be right in most cars. So now Mellish is going to start, fighting his way past here. I'm definitely slower than him. He's pulled in very quickly onto the back of me, and he's going to want to way past to start catching up with Dino as early as possible. So I'm just going to stick to my lines really, and he's going to really have to find a way past, or wait for a mistake that I make. I have to see exactly what happens into the final corner. I can really extend this one out, go very wide here, then just come back for that late apex. And I've run a little bit wide. I'm not sure that AstroTurf from the exit quite helps you. The car wanting to kind of slide if you take that a little bit too much. So we can see there Mellish right on my tail, and he's definitely quicker. He wants basically to get by as soon as possible. Although he's not really, he doesn't seem too impatient. He's not going to start forcing the issue too much. So through the Dunlop chicane, under the Dunlop bridge, into the first of 3 hairpins in a row. It's a very long hairpin, this one, and then they get progressively tighter. So this next one, looking for the end of the grass on the right hand side, and that's where you're going to start braking. Now you see the sun has actually come out now, so that mist is going to start slowly disappearing. So it seems like the rain isn't quite going to play its part in this one, at least not at the moment. We'll see how it changes as we go on. So actually 3 tenths up on this lap so far. Through this one, I'm just going to run in very narrow, give him a car whip from the inside, but a very strong defence, shall we say. And all we're seeing here is Dino actually start to open up that gap even further. So just consistent lapping from Dino really. He knows exactly what to do. Just get your head down and just start churning out the laps. And he's doing exactly that. Now Mellish goes up the inside. That's the kind of thing he had to do. Just really force the issue and go for it. Because I was just going to stick to my lines for the entire race and kind of just block him off that way. So Mellish just with a brave move up the inside. The Jaguar, a very solid car in this division. And you see I'm just very wide through there. Perhaps should have got off the throttle mid-turn and let the car rotate a bit more. I'm going to move to the middle of lap number 8. So I'm still in 3rd, but you can see now Mellish has got into the lead. And Dino into 2nd, so he's been dispatched by the Jaguar. Now we have a train forming. This is quite exciting stuff, and it's good in this division because you get this quite a lot. A lot of the cars do seem to be very evenly matched in this division, which is really good to see. Not all the divisions are, really evenly matched. This one, I think most of the cars are. There are a couple of exceptions where some cars are a little bit quicker, but these Aston Martins are fairly much on par with the M3 GT2, which is chasing me down. I'm going to dive into the pit lane here at the end of lap 8, so that's 2/3 of the race complete. And I dive in, and I think there was someone right behind me there, Dawn of the DOS, who we saw in the Brands Hatch race at the very beginning, and he was part of that train that was forming behind me. So the Super GT train has now been passed by the Bentley, so perhaps that is a bit of karma. Just nudging him wide on lap 1. So that Bentley, super fast as well, and really good on the straights. That's one of the newer cars in the game. And Bentley there, so you see just ahead, a couple of seconds ahead there, he's displaced me, so I've gone down a position. I'm in 6th place at the moment, but we still have a couple of people left to come out of the pit lane, which we are going to see in just a moment. Here we are then at the beginning of lap number 10. We're going to look to the right hand side. There they are. It's Roadrunner just coming out, and I'm just going to get past as we go through Dunlop Curve. A really kind of tricky position to be in, and if he was maybe 50 metres further up, which is barely half a second less than that, then he may well have stayed ahead or forced me very wide into a quite a compromised position. So just about doing enough to get back out ahead of Roadrunner. So the strategy here working perfectly for me in terms of trying to get this 4th position. And then again on the next lap, the BMW that was behind me, not quite as close as what Roadrunner was. So weirdly, or perhaps not weirdly, I think the BMW there must have had a bad in-lap, and he's lost a good second or so. So he's dropped from 2nd place in this train to the back of the train. So we have about a lap and a half left to go, and I have 4 people right on me. So this is where you earn your money, really. When you're out in the front by 1,000 feet, that's easy. But when you've got this many people who are very quick right on your tail, including the Forza RC champion, it can get quite nerve-wracking. But you kind of just got to really forget about what's going on behind. You really just got to focus on going forwards and just lapping exactly as you were. And I've always maintained that one of the main things in this game is your braking points. If you can learn to brake exactly at the same place, obviously the correct place, on lap 1 I wasn't braking at the right place, but once you know where to brake, as long as you can do that consistently, that will really help. Because as soon as you brake in the correct place, it just lends itself to turning in at the right place and hitting the apex and then accelerating out of the right place. So the process really begins at the exact point that you brake, and doing that consistently will lead to the rest of your corner being quite consistent. So through the final turn, you see the horde there of cars gathering behind Super GT, the slow train which is rolling around Le Mans Bugatti. One more time left to go through Dunlop Curve and into the braking zone very nicely. Pretty much the best I've done it in the whole race. So this time opting to head straight towards the apex rather than braking a straight line then head to the apex. So I think that is a good tactic in the game. Kind of just turn in while braking. As long as the car doesn't start sliding sideways, then it can be very beneficial. You can turn it, you can brake a little bit later if you do that. You see here, opting for that same tactic. Turn in while brake, let the car rotate in the middle and then accelerate out in a straighter line. And it seems to be working wonders at the moment. These guys can't really do anything about it. Perhaps I have to do a Mellish and just go for a banzai lunge. That's perhaps the only way they can really get past at the moment. So on the exit of turn 6, coming up towards the 7 and 8 chicane. So this is a little chicane that can easily go wrong. I've been getting the braking point fairly consistently, you can see here. And then just getting that first apex nicely. And then the second. So that proximity arrow glowing orange, just having a quick look. I like to have a quick look just to see exactly where they are. But you can often just see how dark that proximity arrow is. Plus you can look at the distance thing on the left hand side so you know exactly where they are. And then into the final corner, barring anything miraculous here, I'm going to come round to finish in 4th place. Overall, a fairly good race. I did lead at one point, but I just simply didn't have the pace to match the top 3. But doing well there to hold off a horde of people who were quite ready to go past, and if I had made one bad mistake, I would have easily finished 7th there. So a good race on the whole, and a good couple of races. I do like the Aston Martin, a good car in this division. So the tune by F4H ForceOne, the livery by the FLG, and this video by F4H Super GT. I do hope you enjoyed it as always, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more of the same and smash the like button if you did enjoy. I shall see you in the next one. Thank you for watching as always. Goodbye.